Welcome back, everybody. Scott Stevens here with a look at some weather across the states and a few other highlights as found on social media across the planet. And we're still dealing with fires out west. The snow has spread from Montana and Wyoming yesterday across the Dakotas and Nebraska to Minnesota, and now moving into the western lakes states, and will continue to progress towards the northeast through Michigan and eventually Ontario, Quebec, before the next couple of days is over. And finally seeing a hint that we might be able to throw some moisture into Colorado to help with the fires, also into portions of the Southwest, where it has been so very, very dry lately. Hello, Jane. Good to see you this afternoon. All right, let's head on into it. There's those northern lights. These are one of my favorite things when I'm out in and amongst the stars, is to see the dancing curtains of light. And this was some of the craziest aurora we've seen in a very long time here in Sanjay in Norway. If you look at the picture, you'll even be able to see some cyan and blue. Some of those blues at the tips of the reds. And I've seen some amazing aurora in my life from horizon to horizon in Idaho back in August of 2000, the night of the 11th in particular. But it was just outstanding. And Norway has been in a position where they have been underneath this curtain of light virtually every night, and you can see the Milky Way in the background as the aurora happens between about 20 and 40 kilometers up, so relatively close to the surface of the planet. And of course, obviously, and in the atmosphere, but they've had the clear skies, and that's usually the key. That's usually and often what I'm missing, because time after time, it seems the scenario is that the aurora is happening, but I'm clouded out or stormed out. This is the case of St. Paul, Minnesota, where UnionDepot.org was running a time lapse of the accumulating snows, as the ground is still relatively warm, but the snow coming down quickly enough, heavy enough, that certainly the grassy areas along the waterfronts we're beginning to see some accumulation, and then locations where we had some shade and the soil temperature is not quite as warm, we're able to also pick up some light accumulation. As we look, I don't need messages up there. What's going on there? This boom, thunder and thunder snow action out of a Watertown, South Dakota, that earlier today. And of course, a little thunder in there is always a little exciting. You can see the leaves haven't quite completely come off the trees yet. So if this was a truly wet snow, as that looks like it is, we can see some loading on some of those branches. And of course, he's sweeping back and forth very, very quickly. So it's kind of tough to get the resolution to focus in on the status of the trees. And as we look elsewhere, what the heck? And back one more. And back one more. Then we've got flooding. This in Cork, Ireland, as some intense rains had some beer kegs floating down the street in Cork, Ireland, as heavy rain soaked the area today, triggering some isolated flash flooding. And of course, NASA's OSIRIS-REx storm or satellite has touched down on this asteroid. So they are trying to do a scoop and retrieve mission. Sounds good to me. Let's get some data from some of the beginnings of the solar system, if we want to call it that, or as some of the lore has it, we're actually looking at the debris of a planet where there was a collision, and then the asteroid belt being a result of that long ago collision. All right, fall foliage pictures. The Weather Channel's asking for them. Go ahead, tag them foliage and send them on up there, and maybe they'll end up on this show as well. National preparedness for fire from the National Interagency Fire Center. We've been looking at this since the end of July, and we're back down to 3. We've been there since the 13th of October, so this is the 6th day. Today, there are 5 new large fires reported in the last 30 hours or so, one each in California, Colorado, Missouri, New Mexico, and Oklahoma. And wildland firefighters continue to work on 62 uncontained large fires that have burned 4 million acres. Arizona with 2, California with 17, Idaho in second place with 10 of those fires. What we'd like to see is some snow to begin to put it to take the edge off of this. But what we've got right now is a fairly fast northwesterly flow. Much of this is mid and high level moisture. Maybe we're seeing some clouding up in Idaho, but nothing to the point where it's going to put any moisture down. And then there's still some plumes going on in California, the Mid-Sierra, south of Lake Tahoe, towards the southern end of the Central Valley. But the bigger activity remains in Colorado. I think we get a little bit closer here. First of all, the average precip forecast going out till the 5th of November, which is the better part of 14 plus days. Not a lot for the West. There is some. It does look like we'll see some in central and southern Colorado, and some into Montana and Idaho, and also some of the Pacific Northwest. This is an average of a lot of the models, maybe 40 different particular runs, and they just kind of average it out. So this is the roughest, coarsest, best guess of what the next 2 days will bring. Let's refresh this as we look at record highs. Some scattered across, again, the southern tier. What becomes more noticeable are the record lows. They'll start a few of them on Thursday, and then into Friday, a lot of single digits as we move through Montana, teens into the Dakotas, teens persisting in the Dakotas with a few single digits, then another surge of very, very cold air begins to pour south out of Canada, and then impacting the northern Rockies. It happens with the dust and so forth in the air. But I want to look at this, -2 at Havre, Montana, what the that beats the old low of +3 set back in 1919. This is probably Stanley or Bailey, Idaho. Stanley, there it is. Record 2 degrees. They're forecasting -1. That looks like Sheridan at -1. Breaking the old record, also set back in 1913 of 5 degrees. So we've got some 100-plus-year-old records that are anticipated to fall. And they just keep coming as we move out towards Monday. So we've got some cold weather. And what is bringing that? And look at these highs. That looks like a Lincoln, or I want to say Grand Island, GRI, at 37 degrees for the record high, and there'll just be a degree from that in Grand Island, Nebraska. So there's some chilly weather on its way. Records yesterday across the nation, 105 in 104 west of Winter Haven, California, and +9 at Orr, Montana. Still Epsilon in place. Doesn't look like it's going to really do anything. Certainly no impact to the Gulf coastal states or even the southeastern U.S. Maybe the closest it would get would be a Bermuda, but in every sense, it's not going to be a big deal. The jet stream. Let's go back to water vapor, because that, to me, there's a little more detail, a little granularity inside the data, and still the jet stream flowing rapidly with just kind of a broad trough in here with occasional ripple here. There's a ripple here, and then another one trying to take shape, moving through, say, Glacier National Park and points on to the south. There's Epsilon way out in the Atlantic, so too far away to be a concern, other than it just ticks another name off the list of names used for the year. Hey, Vicky, Karen, Robin, and Jane. Good to see you guys on there. So the big news, what I'm excited to see, and let's animate this bit because it's a long old frame. And at night, maybe this will stop. We can see the infrared imagery picking up the heat signatures of these fires up in the Front Range, some in California. And I'll scroll through this, and we'll see the one showing up. There's one in the Taos area. There's still some up in the Uinta. So there's still some of these fire signatures, and the resources we have are, I don't want to say they're exhausted, but some of them have got to be exhausted. We've been doing this hardcore since the beginning of August. Hardcore, I mean. All right, current temperatures, it's cool. I mean, we're on that boundary between, yes, a little summer hanging on to the southern tier versus winter is making a bold push into the Dakotas and Minnesota. And with widespread snow in Manitoba, and we get even farther north into Canada, 69. Don't they wish? We're looking at freezing temperatures from the border of the Dakotas all the way to the North Pole, and then on to the other side into Russia. So here's the snow we're looking at today. Because we're near the end of the day, this snow is going to stick through the nighttime hours, and that will set the stage for some very, very cool readings. A little farther south, I kind of want to come down into Illinois. No thunderstorm, no severe thunderstorm warnings, just some rather rapid moving, moderate kind of storms, little lightning and thunder in there. But these places were kind of dry. We're deep into harvest season, so the dry weather has been a kind of a godsend. But the moisture, it's here, so we'll take it. We'll use it. There's nothing we can do about it. And then there's the snow moving through Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan, and then also through Minnesota. That's the name of that M state. All right, what I'm interested in, and partly because I live in the Southwest and because the fire danger is so high it's had a lot of news attention lately, is getting some water in this area. Off to the east, there's Epsilon. There's that big low, kind of not really a tropical low, but it's going to wander out there for a bit. Is the development of this little trough here zipping down from the north and how it kind of disconnects. We get two contours that separate from the jet stream. If this comes to happen, this is this Saturday, Sunday. If that comes to happen, that will go a long ways into giving the firefighters a bit of relief, to giving them some higher humidities, some cooler temperatures, and ultimately some moisture on the fire lines, controlling the dust and just maybe a quarter inch, maybe a half inch, maybe even a little bit more than that. And then a blanket of snow, yes, snow and a big raging fire, but eventually the snow lasts long enough, then we can see, the heat, the fuels become wet, and that slows the advance of the fires and allows these guys some assistance. So we'll see if this holds out. This really happening Sunday from northern Colorado, and then through Sunday night, and then into Monday, and then into northern New Mexico, and maybe even some ice or a mixed bag of precipitation as far south as Midland, Odessa, Texas, before the event kind of pulses on and off from Monday, Tuesday, and even into Wednesday before it lifts out towards the north and east. So this will go a long way. Now, we've had several of these models have generated this kind of a snow event for a while, and I'm curious to see if it will actually come to pass. Even the European model begins to bring in some precipitation. This is an old one. Let's update this, and I'm going to fast forward. And it begins to paint some precip in there, and that's the good side. And the European brings in this next storm, and if that happens, this will be a great aid. And I have a little more confidence in the European solution in creating the storm across Arizona and the lower Colorado River Valley. If this happens, I don't want to say it'll be the end of the fire season, but it will probably put the better part of maybe 80% of it to bed, and give the firemen a week with wet fuels, with cool temperatures, with precip coming out of the sky, so they could deal with hot spots rather than a triage and trying to contain a 40, 50, 60 mile an hour wind driven blizzard of embers. And that just does not look again. Yeah, rain. Yes, rain. Exactly. Fires more east than we started California. Yes, they are. Yes, they are, Karen. They've kind of moved farther to the east. That doesn't mean they're not happening in California, but the random ignitions that are under investigation are now happening in New Mexico and more so in Colorado at this point in time. Rain is coming to York. Do you want the rain, Karen? Would that be a good thing for you? As I can come back into here. Let's see when you guys see rain again. You kind of right in here. You're kind of in between it. This is just showery. I couldn't say that you wouldn't get a sprinkle in the next 2 days, but then the heavier stuff, even that tends to weaken greatly. That front coming in through the Lake States and western PA, western New York, kind of just wimps its way out by the time it gets there. The next bigger rain is towards this weekend. All right, guys, off to do some shopping. It's time for round two. Haven't done any big shopping since before the lockdown, so it's time to get the pantries restocked before we head on into winter. So that's the task for the evening at this time. Just got to do it. Got to do it. It's too important. Going to do another perspective tomorrow. The topic, as it appears right now, will either be hunker down or bug out. We'll kind of go through the scenarios that I see coming in the next couple of weeks. And then the decision needs to be made probably before you have to, do you hunker down or do you bug out? That tomorrow on Another Perspective at 6 o'clock Mountain. Until then, see you tomorrow at 5 for another look at some weather. Thanks for stopping.